It's understandable to want to put experiences behind us, especially those that we perceive or deem as painful. It's understandable to want to stop feeling fearful, anxious, angry, doubtful, confused, vengeance, shame, guilt, confusion, all of those like minded emotions and feelings because they don't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good to wonder if it's something that you did that caused someone to do what they did, to live each day knowing what had happened, to want that person to get in trouble and they're not getting in trouble. As a matter of fact, they may be doing what you perceive as better than you, going to school or college, having a great career, having money, a fancy car, and they never acknowledge what happened. As a matter of fact, you may even have them to tell you flat out in your face that I never did that. To doubt your ability to have those boundaries that you need to have, to say no, to not be seen as someone who is less than what you are, to not be seen as someone who's frivolous and someone who deserved it, expected it, and for people to think less of ourselves. That shame that you can have, that guilt, that regret, wanting to somehow delete that portion of your life. But life doesn't work that way. With our abilities, our talents, gifts, along with our experiences, is the work that we're supposed to do here on earth. It is the reflection of truth. It is the what we create as a result of what we've experienced in life. And I've talked about how we can recreate pain. We recreated one way by the thoughts, mainly by the thoughts that we carry inside of us. We begin to see ourselves as a victim, and therefore we create this victim mindset, and we attract and vibrate along this mindset. And then we have people that come in our lives, and they continue to, with us, recreate this victim mindset. That is something wrong with us, that people keep misusing us and abusing us and lying to us and, just not treating us fairly, that we don't see that our thoughts play a major role in what we experience, and that's within the challenge of pain is not letting it define you, not letting it to control you, right? To have you think in a certain way, to have you be afraid of men, of women, of adults, of, elders, coaches, whoever it may be that projected that pain in you, to challenge that thought, that perception, that that's not who I'm supposed to be, right? So we have something that happened to us, and we have to make sense of it. We have to put it in a perspective that does not continue to attract or for us to gravitate to those like-minded experiences. And that's one of the things that and I realized when I was in my bedroom one day, and I was just like, I don't want to be like that. I don't to want something like that to happen again. And worse yet, for me to do it to someone else. And that's when I opened my window and looked out at the blue, pretty blue sky. It was just so gorgeous that day. It's so clear. And maybe because of my thought pattern that I was just like, I want to be aligned with nature. Because I felt like there was something out there that knew life better than me, that knew what I was going to go through, that could help me to navigate life in such a way that I reduced those experiences and those like them. I felt protected, you guys. I remember looking out when I was staying in my grandmother's house. This was shortly after, within a year of my mother leaving my father, an abusive relationship. And I remember looking out at the sky at this time, and it was before I prayed. But we were living in my grandmother's back room, the one room, my mother and my two brothers and myself. And I remember looking up at the sky and just, a little 5, 6 year old thinking, believing, knowing that something out there loved me, you know, something out there loved me. And that thought process, how it continued with a lot of things, just really coming to consciousness about, your words, your thoughts, what you say, you attract, you could become. That realizing that I wanted to be in tune with this power. And so many things took place during that time that I've mentioned on this podcast and in my writings. And one of the things that I realized in our second home, which was across the street from my grandmother's house in Madison, Illinois, is that I realized that that although I had emotions and feelings, I dealt with fear, I dealt with anger, resentment, why, I'm the one that looks like something, and I felt like one of them got scot-free. But dealing with those emotions, realizing that I could still hold on to my innocence, that I could still hold on to self-preservation, that it was me who decided how I wanted that experience to affect me. And there were times where I felt like, I really wanted to fast forward a lot in dealing with my emotions and feelings. I would try to force a thought on me, getting rid of stuff. But then it's like, as you become one with yourself, you realize that you kind of feel like when you're trying to force things to happen, right? There was something that said, you're forcing yourself to address the situation. As we heal, sometimes things come in parts. We have a thought, an awakening that occurs. And once you have that, it's like, can I have the rest of it? Can I just have it right now and just be widely awakened? This spiritual guru that understands it all. But there is a place in the Bible, and I told you that I read the Bible as a child, and it's not about religion, but it's more about what you resonate with truth, right? What you resonate with. That I don't definitely, my thoughts about religion, it's not about that. It's about, what do you believe in? Do you believe in good? Do you believe in evil? What resonates with you? And I remember I used to say, don't force yourself. That thought would come, don't force yourself. And I would say in that, where I could feel like I'm forcing myself, and where I felt like it was time for me to address a specific issue, something that I had dealt with, a portion of it, right? And so there's a part in the Bible, and I looked at the Bible verse, but it's in Ecclesiastes, and it's 3:1, and it says that basically 3:11, that everything has a time, a place, a season. We quickly say that when we're probably building our buildings, or talking to our children, or sometimes we'll say that if something didn't work out, it's just not my time yet. Well, that concept does apply to healing, as sometimes how, no matter how painful it may be, how you may feel that it's drawn out, that there is a time and a place for everything. And as you sit back and you think about your life, and you think about, the thought that came to you on Monday, and then, maybe a month or two later, you had more clarification. Well, that's healing. is necessary for the regeneration of self and the world, which I talk about in my manuscript Compass, but also to healing is a process. We have things that happen automatic, but healing can be a process too as well. It can, and I think part of that process, when things feel like they are delayed, when we feel like, that that things are not happening as fast as we want them to, we need to ask, what is it that I need to experience or to see right now? I believe some thoughts that are part of this awakening need to marinate within us. We really need to not bypass the pain, but to feel the pain. Because I believe that it was through feeling that it reinforced that I didn't want to do that to anyone else. That I was able to feel the anger and the frustration and the shame and the guilt and the doubt and the confusion and the resentment and the vengeance, that I'm able to talk about it today. That I'm able to talk about that. Because you have those emotions doesn't mean you're going to always live with those emotions and feelings. Just because you have them doesn't mean you're always going to live with them. That is almost like, they just drop off when they need to drop off. Maybe it's something you need to experience. Maybe it's something you need to hear, a song, a person saying something, experience something else to confirm that. Or as I learned when I was I don't know, around about 13, 12 or so, that life gives us tests. It's almost like, okay, you're a student of life, and here comes this concept that you need to learn, whether it's compassion or really understanding that the pain is not about you. And then you're tested on that concept, right? That someone may yell at you, someone may do something, you know, uh, someone may do something to you. And all of a sudden you have all these feelings and these emotions that build up again. And that is life's way of showing you that you have not yet learned what you need to learn. You have not yet embodied the compassion. You know, you have not yet embodied forgiveness. Because when you do, it's almost like there's a gliding or transcending over the experience. That something happens, you automatically see that it's not about you, and you automatically spring forth compassion for that individual. And you see their heart, and you understand that the words they spew, the things that they do, is not for you, but it's them to see that they have not yet healed, that they are still dealing, they are still on this pathway of healing, right? We're all on this pathway of healing. Again, some things automatic, we see they happen, as a child, and you see it and you're just like, nope, I won't go there, I won't do that. And other things, it takes a little bit longer. And as you grow in your gifts of speaking, of coaching, of dancing, you also, I think, break free of those things that you need to learn, right? You break free, a little bit freer of anger, a little bit freer of anxiety, free of anxiety. And in the moments you sit there and you experience what you're still having, and then you release a little bit more in due time. So often we want to rush our healing. But if you think about it, and I actually worked on a book, and I'll be working back on that. But healing from the inside out, the only true way to heal. If you think about a sore, or you hit your knee, or you cut yourself, or whatever it may be, and how that wound opens up. Well, the wound has to heal from the inside out. You've heard about wounds, and people go to surgery, and as a trained nurse, and practicing as a nurse in the hospital, when I practiced as a nurse in the hospital, I've seen it where, dehiss, where basically the wound opens up. And then often it can be get infected, and then it's even worse than what it was before, and even requires more treatment than it did before, because we because the wound did not heal properly. And I know a lot of people experienced that during COVID, where they say a lot of people, because of being stuck in the home, they many of those painful memories came back to them. You know, they were re-traumatized often, and some even experienced abuse during that time. And again, if we force something, or when we force something to heal, when we force ourselves, I'm done with that. It's just done. And yet still we still have those what you call triggers, and I've talked about that before, data to let you know that where you are on your spiritual journey in healing. If you're still being triggered by a situation, by a smell, by a word, by an action, then healing has not completely resolved. That there are still things that we need to do to heal from the inside out. Because if you don't, it may be even worse than before. And some people probably felt that during COVID, that it was even worse than before. And so when I say don't rush to healing, I think the biggest thing is to feel our pain, to feel the emotions that you're having, because the more you resist something, as I put out yesterday, the more it persists. So fear, anxiety, inner sadness, whatever it is, but to take a moment, and it doesn't have to be all day. You can either, put a timer. Especially, I know we have multiple things that we're doing, but to take a moment and to ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? And whatever rises up is not something that we should be afraid of or angry about, but it's actually what we've called out in ourselves so that we can address it. So when you have something to rise up, these emotions, it is an opportunity for you to face it, to really feel that pain. And I think one part of me that helped me is to see that innocent person that's there, that person that was curious, that person that had joy, and that person that didn't know to the extent or couldn't even fathom something like that, right? And so it's to see the innocence in yourself, because if you don't see the innocence in yourself, that's what can make you skeptical of other people, right? That's how we believe we have that skeptics, because we don't see the innocence. We have that pain has turned into some type of bitterness, and allowing us to see the world differently, right? We're putting on a different lens, and that lens is often cloudy and disfigured, and we see something else, and we go through our life believing that people are not telling the truth. They're there to harm me, and I can't trust anybody, right? And so we want to still see that innocence in us, and and feel that comfort in knowing that if you choose to heal, if you have asked to be healed, ask and ye shall receive, seek and ye shall find, right? If you choose to be healed, then if we ask, we have to know that we received it. Our mountains may be our anger, our fear, our anxiety. And as we learn, and I believe Mark 11:24, that if you say unto this mountain to be cast into the sea and believe it with all your heart, no doubt, then you shall have whatever you want. And so to lie in the comfort that I have asked for healing from the inside out. I seek it. I desire it. I want it. And I say that whatever you ask for, be ready to receive it. So when those emotions and feelings come up, we don't shy away from them. We embrace them. We embrace them. We feel them. And we feel them in not a way to get back, but in feeling them and giving them their due attention. And then we release them. Because through our acknowledgement, through the light that we shine on them, light dispels darkness. And darkness is the anger, the anxiety, the fear, the shame, the guilt. And that we, with a steady anticipation, that we expect healing, that we expect whatever needs to come up will rise, and that we are on our way to healing from the inside out, on our way to seeing the innocence, the beauty of our gifts, the beauty of our life, and utilizing those gifts and talents that often lay dormant, especially when we are still living in the past. We're still living in our pain. That what love can rise out of that if we're feeling regretful, if we don't love ourselves, that love, that child in us, what can really present itself? But when we really take the blinders off, when we take the guilt, the shame, when we toss them away as they rise, we toss them away, we become clearer, we become cleaner, we become clearer in that we see that our lives have meaning. We see that we are not the victim of our experiences, that we have the right to let go, to release, to love, to have compassion, to have forgiveness, to see people as they truly are, these lights that often become dimmed through the experiences because of the perception that we have on them. So, as I talk about healing, remember that we don't have to force ourselves to heal. There's a place, there's a time, there's a season for our healing. It may be immediate, it may be long coming, right? That's where we build that endurance, and then we are as we are being molded, as we're reflecting the image of truth. All of that will eventually go away, right? Staying in that presence of healing, staying in that presence of being healed and having the freedom and taking the shackles off, that we will receive what that we seek, what that we ask for, that we do not doubt. So as you move about your day, I want you to rest assured that if you have asked for healing, healing is evident. It's going to come. And to prepare yourself. And I'm telling you, healing, there are times when you could be at work, because there is no time, there's no place, but you could be at work and need a moment because something has risen inside of you, and need even just going to the restroom, or just sitting quietly in your office, or going outside for lunch, and really allowing yourself to feel, because when we feel, we release, and we start being able to breathe correctly and to move correctly. And we may notice our hands don't hurt like they do, and our hips don't hurt like they do, because we are shining light on it. We are allowing it to be freed from us. This is Tamika Chambers with the series of Heal from the Inside Out. I believe the only true way of healing. And know that healing is a process, can be a process, and that you are worth the time, the energy, the money to release that which does not belong to you. All right, so I hope you have a fantastic day. Friday is the day to release as much as possible, to allow what is going to come up, and what is not ready to be released, to be patient with yourself, to have compassion towards yourself, and knowing that when the time is right, it will present itself, and you will have the opportunity to release the emotions and feelings that continue to deter you, or continue to present themselves, right? All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. As always, make this lifetime great. I'll have the link as to signing up for my newsletter, Notes on Life, Empowering You to Be You. It's all about you, and it's all about helping you to break this generational cycle of pain and create a cycle of love. It's all about achieving and fulfilling your divine purpose, achieving optimal health, because you deserve it. Your body is the vehicle for your message, and just really perfect self expression, in your life, in your work, in your different roles, to reflect truth and to create the life of abundance in all realms. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care of yourself.